You can fall in love with a house in 30 seconds and spend the next 30 years paying for what you didn't notice. Today, I'm sharing 5 types of homes in Ottawa I would seriously think twice about buying because they can turn into very expensive surprises. Let me start with a sentence that will save you a lot of money in the Ottawa real estate market. You can love a home and still make a bad purchase because they come with risk most buyers underestimate. And I'm not only going to tell you what to avoid, I'm going to tell you exactly what to check, what to ask, and how to protect yourself if you still want the home of your dream. Stay to the end because I'm also giving you my quick Ottawa buyer checklist that you can literally use on your next showing. And while you're watching, please drop a comment with the one you'd never buy, or tell me which one you have owned and survived. Right, let's dive in. This is Ottawa specific advice, and we've got everything here. Century homes in neighborhoods like the Glebe, Centertown, Sandy Hill, Westboro, New Edinburgh, river adjacent pockets near the Ottawa River, and the Reno itself. Suburbs like Kanata, Barhaven, and Orleans, and then rural properties outside the city where you'll run into totally different systems and surprises. These aren't theoretical risk. These things that show up in real Ottawa showings, real Ottawa inspections, and real Ottawa buyer decisions. Number one, century homes. The first type of home I would think twice about buying is a home that's roughly 100 years old or older. And let me be clear, I love old homes. I love the architecture, the craftsmanship, and the character that you just don't get to see in a lot of the new builds today. But here's the issue. Harm is not a maintenance plan. Older homes can be incredible, but they also come with old system, old materials, and sometimes old problems that were patched over many owners. In Ottawa, with our winters, freeze-thaw cycle, and the way some old neighborhoods were built, the main risks I watch for fall into 4 categories. Category number one is your electrical. In very old homes, you may still see knob and tube wiring or remnants of it, or a mix of wiring types from different eras. And here's the part buyers don't always realize. Even if a seller tells you it was updated, that can mean a lot of different things. It might mean we updated some of it. It might mean we updated what we could reach. It just might mean we updated the obvious parts, but there are still older runs in the walls. And that matters because electrical isn't just about convenience. It affects safety. It can affect insurance. And it affects your renovation plans. Category two is a huge one. This is plumbing. Older plumbing can be perfectly functional, but the risk is what you cannot see. Old supply lines, old drains, old connections, and sometimes the surprises show up when you do the first major project, or when you get your first big cold snap, or when something finally gives out. And in older Ottawa neighborhoods with mature trees, another big one is the sewer line. If you're buying an older home, you want to know what you're dealing with from the house to the street. Root intrusions and old lines can become expensive very fast. Category three is insulation and hazardous materials. Some older homes may have vermiculite insulation in the attic, and some vermiculite has been associated with asbestos contamination. Now, I'm not here to scare you, I'm here to make you aware. One detail you can change in your renovation budget, it can affect how you handle attic work, and it can add steps and costs if you need professional remediation. Category four is foundation and water management. Now, Ottawa has plenty of older homes with older foundation, older basements, and basements that were never meant to be finished living spaces. A lot of buyers tour an older home and say, we'll just finish the basement later. But the right question is, should we finish the basement later? See, if the basement has moisture issues or grading is poor or the drainage is inadequate, you can turn a minor inconvenience into a major problem. Here's the real takeaway on century homes. I'm not saying never buy them. I'm saying if you're buying one, do it with your eyes open and do it with a plan. Here's how I would approach it as a buyer in Ottawa. First, I'd confirm insurance early, not after the offer, early. Second, I'd get a thorough home inspection and ask direct questions about electrical, plumbing, attic, insulation, and moisture. Third, I'd build a realistic ownership budget, not just monthly payment. The real cost of bringing the home up to modern expectations over time. Because the people who do well with century homes are the ones who respect what they are. Let's go to number two, flood risks and water risk. The second type of home you got to be careful about when buying is a home with meaningful flood risk or recovering water risk. And I know what you're thinking. Obviously, who buys a home in a flood zone? But here's the reality in Ottawa. Flood risk is not always obvious. And it's not only waterfront mention, it's only dramatic river views. Sometimes it's a few streets that sit low. Sometimes it's a pocket near water. Sometimes it's location that handles normal weather fine until you get the wrong year, the wrong melt, and the wrong storm pattern. Ottawa has had major flooding in the past, and even outside of major flood events, water issues can show up as basement seepage, stormwater backups, sump pump dependency, backwater valve issues, and higher insurance costs. If you're looking near the Ottawa River or the Rideau River or in the low-lying areas, you need to treat water risk like a real category of due diligence. Here's why. The cost is not only the damage, the cost is the ongoing risk profile of the home. Insurance can be higher, coverage can be more restrictive, and resale can be harder because the next buyer will ask the same question you should ask today. What should you do if you love a home and you suspect water risk? Here's the checklist. Number one, call an insurance broker with address before you commit. Ask what the coverage looks like and what the premium range might be. Number two, ask about sump pump and backup power. If a home relies on a sump pump, you need to think about what happens during heavy storms and power outages. Number three, ask if there's a backwater valve. If there is, ask when it was installed and whether it has been maintained over the years. Number four, look for signs, and yes, sometimes signs are subtle. Fresh paint only in the basement, brand new baseboards only downstairs, a humidifier running during showings, that just renovated basement last year story with no details or why it was done. Water isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just persistent, and persistent is very expensive. Again, not a universal never, but it's absolutely a do not ignore. Let's look at number three, underground oil tanks, oil heating history. The third type of home I would think twice about buying is a home with an underground oil tank or a property with unclear oil heating history. This comes up more often than people realize, especially outside central Ottawa, in older rural properties, and sometimes in homes that switched heating system years ago. Here's the issue. An underground oil tank is not like a repair item. If a tank leaks, you're not talking about fixing a tank. You're talking about environmental remediation. You're talking about soil testing, soil removal, disposal, possibly repeated testing, and depending on the situation, it could get very expensive. If you're buying a home and you hear any of these phrases, I want alarm bells in your mind. It's decommissioned, it was filled, it was dealt with years ago. We don't really know where it is. Now, decommission can mean different things depending on when it was done and how it was done. If I'm a buyer, here's what I want. I want documentation. I want dates. I want to know who did the work. I want the permits if applicable. I want the testing results if testing was done. And ideally, I want the tank removed entirely, not just filled and left in the ground. If a seller can't provide clear documentation or refuses to address it, that's a situation where I would walk away or renegotiate hard based on professional advice. This isn't the kind of risk you want to hope works out. Number four, quick flips with shoddy work. The fourth type of home I would think twice about buying is a quick flip with questionable workmanship. And let me say this carefully. I'm not against renovated homes. I'm not against investors. Some renovated homes are done properly with permits, with quality trades, with real upgrades, and they're great. The problem is the bad flips, the lipstick renovations. The home that looks perfect in photos and feels like an exciting on the first walkthrough, and then 2 months later you move in, you realize the renovations were cosmetic, rushed, and hiding deeper issues. Here are the most common red flags I notice in Ottawa renovation flips. The cosmetics are sloppy, trims don't line up, paint lines are messy, floor transitions are uneven, doors don't close properly, cabinets are installed slightly off, and the work looks rushed. Now, I know those are small items, but here's what those small things usually mean. They were trying to move fast. They were cutting corners. And if they cut corners on things that you can see, you have to wonder, what about the things you cannot see? The major items. If you're touring a flip, here's how to buy smart. First, ask for an itemized scope of work. What exactly what was replaced? What was upgraded? What was left alone? Second, ask for the permits, electrical, plumbing, structural changes, basement renovations. In many cases, permits matter. You want to know whether the work was done properly and legitimately. Third, look past the kitchen. Everyone stares at the countertops. I want you to look at the panel, the windows, the attic insulation and ventilation, the grading outside, the basement signs of moisture, the age of major systems. You see, a beautiful kitchen does not compensate for expensive core problems. And one more Ottawa specific point, our climate is unforgiving. If a flip ignored ventilation, ignored insulation, ignored moisture management, you might not feel it on a sunny showing day, but you will feel it when winter hits, when the spring melt hits, or when humidity hits. And the message is not never buy a renovated home. The message is don't let shiny finishes replace the due diligence. Let's look at number 5. Over-the-top custom features. The fifth type of home I would think twice about before buying is a home with over-the-top custom features that don't appeal to the average buyer. And this one's sneaky because it really feels like a bonus when you're buying it. You walk in the home and you see something like a massive built-in aquarium, a themed room, a very unusual layout modification, a hyper-specific luxury kitchen style, a custom feature that's impressive but permanent. And at first, you might think, this is amazing. But when you live there for a year or two and you realize something, you're paying to maintain someone else's dream. If you ever decide to remove it, you're paying again. The more custom the feature, the more expensive it is to change. And the more likely it is that a future buyer will look at it and say, geez, I love the house, but I hate this feature. And in Ottawa, the buyer pool is often very practical. People want functional layouts, comfortable living, reasonable maintenance, and improvements that make sense for the price point. Here's the rule I use. If a custom feature would cost you tens of thousands of dollars to remove or redesign, you should treat it like a liability unless you're absolutely sure you want it long term in your home. When it comes time for you to sell, unique can become quite limiting. Right. Now, I promised you a simple checklist. Here it is. Here is your Ottawa buyer checklist. If you want to avoid expensive mistakes while house hunting in Ottawa, use this checklist on every home you're serious about. Number 1, ask for documentation early, not after you fall in love with the home, before that. Number 2, call the insurance with your address if anything seems high risk. Older systems, water risk, unusual features, call early. Number 3, that's a big one. Verify major upgrades and permits where relevant. If it's new, ask when and done by who, and was it permitted. Number 4, don't budget only for the purchase. Budget for ownership. Heating, insulation, repairs, maintenance, water management, water replacement systems. Number 5, if something feels off, investigate. In real estate, your first instinct is often your best one. Let's wrap this up. Guys, those are your top 5 types of homes I would think twice about buying in Ottawa. Century homes without a clear plan for systems and upkeep. Homes with meaningful flood or risk management. Homes with underground oil tanks or unclear oil history. Quick flip with sloppy workmanship and over-the-top custom features that can hurt resale and cost a fortune to change. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one is your personal deal breaker? And if you want, comment the word checklist and I'll send you a clean, buyer-friendly list of questions you can ask at showings so you don't forget anything in that moment. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more Ottawa-specific real estate advice, and I'll see you in the next video.